Amazon HQ2, WeWork meltdown, and smart home spies. It's our last show of the year, so we're reviewing the biggest tech stories of 2019.
We want to hear what your highlights and lowlights were for the year, so stick around for your daily charge.
Good morning and welcome to the Daily Charge. It is December 12th. Thursday. I'm Joni Salzman.
I'm Ben Fox-Rubin.
Let's recap this year in tech. First up, Amazon had a bonkers year in 2019. The whole HQ2 beauty pageant backfired, not to mention backlash about workers' safety and big Bezos melodrama. Ben, sum it up.
It was bad.
It was a bad year.
It was a bad year, especially because a lot of it really it percolated well outside the tech sphere.
Right.
It's one thing to really have an embarrassing data breach, or it's something that still exists within the world of tech, within the bubble that we exist. The Bezos divorce was uncomfortable, I'm sure, for a lot of people working at Amazon for a number of reasons. And it became like this big drama that existed.
Right.
Basically, everybody was like waiting breathless to find out what the world's most expensive divorce was going to look like. The HQ2 thing was the same thing, where it became a big national story where New York, getting this very, very sought after project, ended up throwing it back in the river and saying, no, we actually don't want this. And it proved to be a pretty embarrassing situation for Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something that's been an ongoing concern with Amazon, it never really bubbled up to the surface like this before, but worker safety and distribution centers. It feels like this year people really started to grapple with the fact that there maybe serious problems about it. Yes, no?
It definitely got a lot of attention this year, if not more attention. But this is something that has been percolating for years now. And it's getting a lot more attention. I feel like to a certain extent, HQ2 was a platform for which a lot of people were able to voice their grievances about the company. And one of the problems there was that it didn't stop with Amazon just leaving New York. Like, some of the protests about the company have still been going on. So as far as worker safety issues, as far as them working with immigration authorities, people are still really griping about that. And I think looking for the company to make some changes.
Yeah. Well, our next tech story of the year actually involves Amazon too. Basically, every major voice assistant, that means Amazon, Google, Facebook, Apple, and Microsoft, they were all sending anonymized recordings to reviewers to grade how well their voice assistants worked. Now, and this has been the case for years, but kind of like with workers' safety, this is something that seemed to reach a point where the public wised up to it and said, no thanks.
Right. So one of the interesting disconnects here was that a lot of the folks that worked in voice computing were like, yeah, of course we're doing this. You don't just create, a voice assistant and then leave it on the shelf and expect it to just keep developing on its own. AI needs continual human interaction to be able to direct it and move it the right way, because there's garbled text or there's garbled speech. There are accents. There are a number of different ways that you have to really improve the technology. The problem is that they didn't really educate the public on this. And
they didn't make it an opt-in situation for anybody.
No. And I think that was really what made people uncomfortable, was that it could potentially have been my recordings. It could have been your recordings. It could have been anybody's. Now there are more opt-in features or opt-out features, but they probably should have done that earlier. This is still a new technology, so that's somewhat understandable there. But they definitely lost trust. There's no question there. Yeah. All those companies did related to that.
Yeah. Another company that lost some trust, WeWork. It began the year hot with an eye-watering $47 million valuation, but then came the meltdown, and it happened fast. Its IPO filing revealed a web of questionable practices and bizarre behavior by its CEO, and everything collapsed within about a month. WeWork's valuation plummeted to $5 billion at one point, basically a tenth of what it was. So do you think this was the reckoning for these overinflated ambitions for quote unquote tech companies?
I mean, I'd like to believe that, but I really don't think so. I'd love to hear your opinion on this, because I've been, droning on about Amazon stuff, but SoftBank is still a major investor. WeWork did not implode. They did not go belly up.
Well, their CEO quit.
That's true.
Was fired.
They had a lot of problems, but WeWork as a going concern continues to exist, and they live to fight another day. A good example of another company that had from my consideration, an inflated value and was kind of on the road to being another one of these lousy companies was Uber. And Uber is now a publicly traded company. They're still having a lot of struggles, but it's not like they went into bankruptcy either.
Yeah. The thing that I question about it is that WeWork like to pitch itself as a tech company.
Right.
Because they have Wi-Fi in their buildings? Like, they're not.
Right. A lot of other real estate development companies that do the exact same thing have existed in this like very non-sexy space for years.
Yeah.
And they're like, what's going on here?
Well, that was the thing. What was going on there? A lot of like bizarre stuff.
Yeah. So hopefully investors wised up, but there's a lot of funny money that exists, not only in Silicon Valley, but in New York, all over the world. And, you got an interesting pitch. You've got an interesting front person that's presenting something that sounds like it's going to be the next hot thing. I could definitely, this is not the last time it's going to happen.
No.
I mean, like, that doesn't seem likely at all.
Do you think it's not the last time there's going to be an overinflated company like this, or not the last time it's going to like implode?
Both. Yeah. I mean, like, we're going to go through the cycle, I'm sure, again.
Yeah. Well, finally, Disney Plus. Now, Disney Plus turned out to be a bigger hit than anyone expected. Quietly, over the course of 2019, turns out it was the top trending search term for Google in the US. Then it launched in November, and it was so popular, demand kept crashing the service. Baby Yoda's a giant hit. BVG, what did you think of the launch for Disney Plus, and what are people in the chat saying?
Well, a lot of people are actually talking about Disney Plus just because it is kind of a unequivocal hype train kind of thing. I'm a big fan. I know it's a major money grab. I know this could turn south in a heartbeat, and I can cancel my account in a heartbeat too. But for now, they got the stuff I want to watch. I'm going to watch. I think it's an interesting place because I feel very hypocritical praising it, because I also do really hate that we got 1.5 million different streaming platforms right now, and the entire cord cutting thing to save money on cable has completely and utterly backfired. But as long as I can watch a Goofy movie, I'm good. I mean, Joan, you've had a good experience mostly with the app so far, right?
Yeah, I mean, as a consumer, I signed up for it. I have kids, so I'm in for the long haul. Like, it's kind of like not even my choice. But I think it was impressive. Everyone knew that people love Disney, but I don't think people really realized how much people love Disney. The fact that they were able to announce, like, the day after launching, that they had 10 million people sign up. Nobody expected that kind of turnout for the app, for the service that quickly.
Really? You don't think that they had any kind of
Disney
inkling?
didn't. I mean, Disney's expectations were that it would add about 1 million subscribers each month. And so it cleared through 10 months of its expectations in a day.
Wow. Okay, I didn't realize it was that grandiose. Yeah. Hey, while we're here, let's go ahead and talk to some of our friends in the chat. And we'll take one from Rob on Twitter, our loyal Twitter follower. I guess you can't discuss how sucky 5G is since you covered that today. I wonder if you could possibly discuss giving Alfred the 2019 Troll of the Year award.
Oh, he gets the Troll of the Century award.
I think you're right.
You guys only get a glimpse of how much he trolls.
Yeah. As from the 5G perspective, I think Roger has really been able to take over that subject.
Where's the hype button?
Yeah, fairly like, haven't we done a bunch of 5G episodes like very recently? So
like yesterday.
Yeah. So that'll be a bigger deal, I feel like, in 2020. We've definitely been talking about it a lot on the show and CNET, but it's really like not even that present.
Well, it's not here yet. Next year might be the year. I mean, it's on track to be the year when people will it'll actually be relevant to people in their day-to-day lives.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like it's probably not even going to be at the end of next year. I mean, like, you still have to like upgrade your hardware. You got to get a new phone. I know people do that fairly regularly, but I feel like it's going to be a slow burn as far as people getting interested and excited about it. Mm-hmm. And, the thing with it is that all the phone carriers are already rolling out all their advertising about it. It wouldn't surprise me. I feel like I've heard this, that like a lot of consumers actually think 5G, like they're already getting 5G because like that's what the commercials are telling them about. Like, we've already developed 5G. Here it is, whatever.
And it stinks because it's not 5G. It's just slow connections that you're used to.
Yeah, it's pretty lousy right now. So yeah, not quite a top thing of 2019. I would say a thing that we talk about a lot.
Hype wise, maybe, but
oh, for sure.
Impact wise, nah.
Michael Brown says the biggest tech announcement of the year was the transition of 359 to the daily charge.
Oh, that's cute.
He says he's waiting for his brownie. It's I'll send you a sheet pan.
Uggs.
Yes.
Well done.
I mean, he's got something to say. Obviously, it's a joke, but like, it was fun for us. We hope it's been fun for you, and we'll keep saying this throughout the episode. Thanks, everybody. It's been a really fun year. Yeah. Next up, let's take one from Eric. He says, we all know what Roger's answer is going to be for top tech of the year.
Well, yeah, that was, what is it? T-Mobile CEO stepping down?
Come on, Ben, that's a gimme. Will Berry says, Cybertruck, Neuralink, Galaxy Fold, Disney Plus. It's funny, I kind of figured Galaxy Fold would have been on your list too, Joan.
It was close. It's just I didn't want to. I figured one of our really clever viewers would bring it up, and I couldn't pack. I didn't want to pack. I wanted to let you guys, weigh in. So I didn't. But it was on my short list, and I just cut it out because I wanted to talk about other more sexy things.
Yeah,
but I don't know. It was pretty epic. Like, you send out this like revolutionary folding screen design, and then all you have to do is just peel off the cover that you peel off on every other phone, and it's totally like bricked.
Right.
That's pretty good.
I would say that was like an order of magnitude more significant than Cybertruck. Cybertruck is like, at least at this point, Elon's car that he gets to drive around and like get people to tweet about it.
Run over pylons with.
Right. So there's like a big question as far as like whether that's going to have any impact or influence whatsoever. So far, it was just like a media event, and then Musk kind of using it to like show it off. So... But at the same time, I do think people are probably going to buy it. Not a lot of people, but
people will buy it.
People will definitely buy it. It's kind of like an iconic look. At first, I was just like, this is ridiculous. And now I'm like, yeah, sure. It's a luxury vehicle. People will buy it.
Put that on your grave.
What?
I thought Cybertruck was an, quote, iconic look.
It is iconic insofar as it's like very recognizable, which works very much in like the luxury brand. I don't know. I'd like to pitch that to like the audience to see what they think about that.
Speaking of the audience, the chat is lit with great commentary today. Timothy says, how about $53,000 for a Mac Pro? Is that a highlight or a low light? I'm putting that in the low lights.
Oh, come on. Sure. That's as much as a Cybertruck.
Yeah.
Cybertruck.
Let's see what else. Will says low lights could be the Bixby speaker and the red Hydrogen 1 phone. Did the Hydrogen 1 phone really flop that hard? I wasn't paying attention to that one.
I think you just answered your own question.
Oh, wow. That was a good setup, and it wasn't even trying.
Oh, yeah.
Boom.
All right. Eric says, still crying over Cap's storyline, and Brian backs it up with more on the Galaxy Fold and the Avengers Endgame story arc coming to a conclusion.
Yeah,
made for a pretty crazy year.
Culturally, that was a big story.
Definitely.
Because it, dominated conversation. That and like Game of Thrones ending. Those two things happening so quickly, like so close to each other, right? Like they were both within like a month of each other, I think.
Yes.
The finale of Game of Thrones and also the end of that, what do they call phase of the MCU? They call them phases, epochs. I don't know. Yeah.
Now that I've had some like several months to think about it, I also now realize that the end of Game of Thrones really was as bad as people were saying.
It's so bad. Man.
It wasn't very good.
It was bad.
I think I was convincing myself at the time because it's like a big epic storyline and very well produced that I was just like, yeah, this is great. And yeah, people were so mad about it, and I kind of get it now.
Yeah,
so,
it's really easy, and I feel that like Apple TV Plus shows are a little bit like this too. That it's really easy to get seduced by how good it looks. Like when you have production value, that's better than anything else that's produced on TV. The most like heavily invested television that's getting made in the world. And like it's really easy to be like, oh yeah, this is really good. But that doesn't like make up for
bad
crappy story development and
for sure.
terrible like character progression and
Apple got
cadence issues.
Apple got what they wanted out of like the morning show. Didn't that get some?
Well, we don't know. They got like Golden Globe nominations, but
that's like no big deal.
I mean, like it's like seen as like a precursor to Emmy nominations. But like the thing that TV shows really like to tout is like getting like what are they called? Like the Peabody Awards for like egghead stuff. Is it Peabody's, right? Or
there are Peabody Awards,
yeah. For egghead stuff, and then Emmys are the ones that people really care about.
I wouldn't mind
Egghead
getting a
stuff.
Golden Globe, but whatever.
We got some more chatter about the Cybertruck and the Galaxy Fold. I want to know if Elon's going to show up at CES this year with the Cybertruck and be the next robot hit and run.
He's too cool to show up at
Yeah.
CES.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if he could troll us by driving the Cybertruck in and running over the robot himself instead of having a self-driving car do it this year, I'm on board for that train. And that's all I have to say.
Make more than one, then we'll talk.
Matthew Datcher says the fact that Facebook still grows despite all the backlash it suffers for is bad decisions.
Yeah.
Social media in general probably kind of at a low point in 2019.
Yeah, and I think that's something, to stop looking backward and look forward a little bit. I think that next year, government regulation of big tech is going to be a big trend. It's going to be, that's a theme that's already happening now, but I think it's going to reach more of a fever pitch and actually maybe manifest next year with the election coming up, that being probably maybe a big part of the campaign trail.
It already has presented itself.
It already
as being,
is.
yeah.
And so, I think the fact that, because, it's all self-regulated for now and people are not angry enough to stop using these addictive services. But we'll see.
Interesting point there that I talked to somebody in the industry about, which is going back to Datcher's point as to why Facebook hasn't stopped growing is that this goes right back to regulatory issues, that they're a monopoly. Mm-hmm. That's what this person was arguing very concretely. That's obviously what regulators in Congress is looking into right now. And it's like, there is no other competition. You're going to stop using Facebook. Where are you going to go? Mm-hmm. You're going to stop using Android. I guess you could go to iOS, but ultimately, if it's not like a 2-horse race, it's a 1-horse race in a lot of these markets. So that'll definitely be a conversation next year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Tim's got a question. He says, with the HQ2 fallout, is it embarrassing for New York or Amazon? I feel like New York City, who voted for HQ2, turned 180 degrees in terms of their feelings. Not me. Both. I still hate it.
It's both. I think that there's definitely recognition that it was a very, very big project for Long Island City. That was, from a broader public perspective, that I think most people wouldn't argue with that. That's not really a controversial conversation, comment to have, that it's 25,000 new employees that would be on a sparkling new campus along the waterfront, and that what that would mean for infrastructure, subways, the water system, a lot of different things. But at the same time, the governor and the mayor both brought this project to the city and then proceeded to let Amazon get completely railroaded by other local politicians. That was a very bad look for them, where they convinced them to come to town, say we're open for business. So I don't think both of them came out looking bad. I would say there was a lot of blame to go around in this situation.
And I do feel on the flip side, the way that it didn't reflect well on Amazon is you're going to have this ridiculous beauty pageant. You're going to pick your thing. And when people start saying, hey, we don't like these parts of it, you don't seem to engage in any sort of good faith discussion to actually work through the problems. You're just okay, screw you. We'll just go to Virginia instead.
Right. And that was generally how they were presented. And it's been interesting to see the rest of the year that protests in New York have continued. That they now focus on the Staten Island fulfillment center that they have. And there have been pushes to get the workers to unionize. Again, there's been a lot related to Amazon's connection to ICE. And it doesn't seem that these folks are going away, that they're really trying to push this issue. And what exactly they see as an end goal will also be interesting, as far as getting Amazon to stop working with government officials or immigration officials. Would that actually satisfy them? I wonder, because I think that they don't like the presence of Amazon. They think it's too big, and there are obvious arguments to be made there.
Shout out to Ryan. He says, it's been great having this show to listen to and talk tech with people on a daily basis. We want to reciprocate that feeling. It's great for us too. It helps us learn more about what we want to get in touch with the community. And it's just been fun with you guys, the loyal fan base, the growing fan base. Again, we're going to be redundant, but thanks everybody for being a part of this. We're going to just be taking a long break at the end of the year. We're not going anywhere, just a breather. Here's one from Yan. This is another good one to bring up, as it's going to be a mess for a long time. Specific to the YouTube community, Coppa is a big thing to talk about, though it's only going to be implemented next year. I don't think that's going to directly impact us, but it's going to directly impact a lot of people.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how things play out. The headline thing that happened this last year is that YouTube was hit with the biggest Coppa penalty ever, which was for $170 million. The value of that penalty, the dollar value of it, is like chump change to YouTube and Google, YouTube's parent company. But what really mattered is as part of the settlement with the FTC on children's privacy were all these new rules. And so in a way that people can argue that's good, that YouTube has to be observing some sort of rules around privacy that are set outside of its own little fiefdom. Like, it's not self-regulating itself in that respect as much. But the downside is, so long as like YouTube implemented this part of the settlement was that YouTube would require creators, uploaders to self-identify their videos as being directed to kids. And what that means is, if you are confused about what is directed to kids, which a lot of people are, if you are unfamiliar with Coppa, if you don't really understand the significance of just like that little toggle, you as a creator, as an uploader, expose yourself to getting your own Coppa violation, which can be significant. Ooh. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see. A lot of people would argue that YouTube has failed to properly protect children and how they use and how children use and are treated on YouTube, considering it's such a popular service with young kids. But there could be repercussions for just, you know, unwitting people that want to make fun videos and don't realize that they could be exposing themselves to getting their own sort of violations.
And this is a perfect example, going back to what you were talking about, regulation. That this is a very early step in creating new guardrails around some of these services. There's been so much written about a lot of the negative and not child-friendly content that exists on YouTube Kids. I know you've written some of this, and this is part and parcel of regulators really paying a lot more attention to these things. So yeah, as a parent, I think it's really interesting and important to do these types of things. For YouTube creators, I can definitely see it being difficult for them too. That like, do I need to get a lawyer now to know whether I kind of exist in a gray space between whether it's okay for kids or not?
Yeah.
Okay, with the very, very, very limited amount of time we got left, let's just slam through a couple of these, make sure we shout out our friends. Camera says, hey, what about that quantum computer?
Oh. What about it? Ben knows about it.
Yeah,
I know nothing.
It's kind of like 5G in that like nobody really knows what it is yet or what to do with it. But the quantum computer, IBM showed it off. It looks like, I'm stealing this from Wired. It looked like a cyberpunk chandelier. And it's supposed to, I don't know, make computing so much faster and so much better and so much more incredible. But it's all very abstract right
Theoretical,
now.
in a way.
Right.
Practically.
So we'll probably hear more about quantum computing at CES, so stay tuned about that. But at the same time, it's kind of one of those broader technologies that it's going to take a few more years to bake, I would think.
Michael Brown says, Ben Fox Rubin doing a video with the Property Brothers was pretty big.
Thanks, man.
I'd love to see more partnering with HDTV personalities with more smart home coverage. That is actually a great idea.
Michael Brown.
Oh,
Michael Brown is so nice.
I, too, am also a big fan of HGTV.
I will only do videos with identical twins, so sorry.
So Olsen's.
The Olsens and the Property Brothers. That's basically it. The Wicklevi. Right. We could talk about blockchain, whatever.
Okay, DC147 says biggest tech announcement for me was the announcement of the PS5 and Xbox Scarlet. Partly because they play a lot of games, partly because they're fascinated on how they'll compare to the streaming services. Interesting.
Yeah,
the idea of not a video game console, but an entertainment console.
These are good answers.
It's not the wave of streaming services that really lit his fire. It was the consoles. That's interesting.
Starlink is also being floated around in the chat. Did not see that coming, but hey, why the hell not? Imagine Sagi says, what exactly did WeWork's president do or CEO do? Could we expand on that a little bit more?
So for sure. So he, it's not like a single scandal. Like he did one clearly inappropriate thing. It was more that he had this kind of like high flying, eccentric pattern of behavior. Like there was one instance where he was like smoking pot on allegedly smoking pot on a flight across like country lines, like an intercontinental flight or something, which, you know, can be considered like drug trafficking or something. You know, so there's that. He also, like, there was one instance where he had to lay off 7% of WeWork's staff, and he capped this all hands meeting saying like 7% of your friends are getting fired by like having a party where they passed around tequila and Run DMC came out to perform. So he like and then he's just an eccentric
There were
guy.
a lot of conflicts.
There's a lot of things
He found
made
different
investors
ways
nervous about him.
Right. He found different ways to get paid. Specifically by the company. So, for instance, when they switched their parent company name from WeWork to We, apparently he took a huge consultation fee.
Right.
You know, so there were just a lot of ways that he was using the company broadly as like a piggy bank.
Yeah,
And
seemingly to enrich himself.
well, you know, when SoftBank bought him out and kicked him out, he walked away with more than $1 billion, $1.5 billion, while a bunch of his employees got laid off. That obviously left a lot of people with a very sour taste in their mouth about how capitalism works, which is understandable.
Yeah.
Smart homes, obviously not new technology by any stretch of the imagination. It's had its ups and downs, a lot of activity in 2019, some silly. Do we think we're really going to maybe see that market kind of take off in 2020 and start finding a real place for itself?
Well, I think that it'll be like interesting to see the kind of preponderance of smart home devices, that the tension with that, and how people are getting more nervous about these smart home devices, these things that are interconnected, and also many of them listening to you to take commands.
Right.
I think that they're
or like surveilling your neighbors, as like Alfred's been writing about.
Yeah, writing a lot about Ring and other smart doorbells, all that. I think it'll be interesting to how those two trends sort of coexist in parallel with each other next year.
Right. In general, I think so. Smart home has definitely found a place, but in general, people really use it for very basic things like what's the weather, what's the music, like play some music, and also like hooking up smart light bulbs. So the actual concept of like a super smart home that's like very interconnected, it's not really something that most people have right now. It's more just these very simple port-ons that, you know, I have them at my home, and they annoyingly still don't work all the time.
I really like light switches. They're so simple.
They are helpful, except that, you know, I have Amazon's voice assistant in my house, and it routinely screws up turning on and off the living room light. I have no idea why. I've been telling it for years.
I like analog light switches.
Oh,
that's what I like.
Good for you.
I feel like there are
They're
certain technologies.
just so easy.
There are certain technologies that if like Apple tricked everybody and repackaged it as an Apple innovation, it'd be like, it's magical, so simple, on, off, a quick flip of a switch. It'd be like, I would be like, oh my God, it's brilliant. Also radio is like
amazing.
It's like so cool.
Right.
It's just like these waves that are everywhere.
You plug it in and it works.
Yeah, you just plug it in and it works.
Well, that's why people are like so excited. Like
school.
cord cutting millennials and Gen Zers are so excited about like linear analog television, like with the digital antennas.
Yeah, broadcast television.
Right. Yeah, because like they're like, wait a minute, I get this for free.
It's just free.
It's just free.
Floating around me all the time, and all I have to do
doesn't make any
is grab
sense. That is the biggest story of 2019: broadcast TV, radio, and light switches. Thank you very much, everybody.
We forgot a low light that was so low it's not even worth bringing up. Facebook portal, screw it.
Is that this year?
Yeah, I think it was released this year, wasn't it?
It may have been late last year. I'm not really sure, but yeah, Facebook was a real disaster. Also, that's a good news for Amazon. We talked a lot about Amazon, but Amazon was in some pretty lousy company. Amazon had a pretty bad year,
and then
so did Facebook.
Said,
so did Google.
I think that like the year before for Facebook was when crap really hit the fan. Like,
it's okay. It's the last episode of the year.
Wow.
Yeah, baby.
What are we, like 600 episodes in, and I have to make my first expletive edit?
I'm
not the first expletive. Definitely on the show. I know
Alfred
has dropped an F-bomb.
Oh my God.
I know
several
he
times.
has.
Several
Yes.
times. In Joan's defense, I will also say the word.
Cool, thanks.
not defense.
Demonetized.
like-
Fantastic.
That's just being a co-conspirator.
So whatever.
Okay, and last final thoughts. Self-driving cars? I mean, obviously, again, not new technology.
We're talking
but
about future stuff now.
Are they going to be commonplace next year, though?
No.
Regulation. That's an area where regulation is so stringent. It's like the opposite of what we're dealing with big tech. Is there's so much regulation
It's the same thing with delivery drones. Yeah. And it's another big reason, a good example of like super regulation is in the banking and healthcare industries. And that's why big tech hasn't really, pushed into those areas nearly as much as they potentially could have, because they're super aggressive in other areas and they're really incapable of doing that. Like they have to, like the Apple Card is a good example. Apple had to partner with Goldman Sachs and MasterCard to come out with the Apple Card this year because they couldn't do it on their own. They couldn't do it themselves. And the regulatory framework is extremely burdensome, where Apple could not just willy-nilly become its own bank.
Right.
Well, we could keep talking about this stuff and speculating forever and ever, but we are out of time. We're out of year. We're out of year.
We're out of year.
We will, of course, resume discussing all of this in 2020 and continue on until we all rot in these seats as we sit. But
hopefully they'll be self-driving at that point.
Thanks, everybody, so much for an excellent year going with the flow as we try to shake things up and try something new here. Hopefully more of that on the horizon. Time will tell. But until then, we'll see you at CES January 5th. Everybody have a terrific holiday, whatever you're celebrating. Happy care. Holidays. Wonderful New Year. Ben and Joan, it's been so much fun. Thank you guys.
Oh, thanks, Ryan.
It's been a bit of a slog this year with all the different changes, but you guys have done swimmingly. And I just want to express my sincere gratitude.
Thanks,
I really
man.
enjoy doing the show with you guys.
Well, thanks everybody for watching.
Thanks
for watching and
thanks,
listening.
Ryan, for being you.
And thank you, BVJ.
Thanks you too for only demonetizing us every once in a while.
Yeah, they did it a few times. I think you just got us demonetized by mentioning demonetization.
No,
so.
I mentioned Coppa before, so I'm sure they're just kind of like,
no, don't even talk about
You're
Coppa.
now directed at kids. No money for you.
All right. Thanks again, everyone. Take care. We'll see you in a few weeks. And Joan, you can take us on home for the last time this year.
Yeah. So if you would, we would love it if you would ring the bell. That way you can tune in with us every morning when we fire back up in 2020. And if you could check the description below, that's where you'll find links to all of today's stories and every place you can subscribe to the podcast if you want to watch the show on the go.
Nice.
For CNET and the Daily Charge, closing out 2019, I'm Joan.
I'm Ben.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
And watching.